Morning everybody, Sarah here doing part 4 of her Q&A for all her lovely DeviantArt watchers who've been so cool to leave me questions. It's really early, but I thought I'd get something more accomplished today and record part 4 just so it's up for you guys when you all waking up, because I'm sure pretty much everybody else is asleep but me. So anyway, we're going to move on right in. Sasuke Smiles Scares Me asked me, would you rather Phoenix get his badge back or stay a hobo? If we're talking in terms of a future Ace Attorney game where Apollo Justice is involved, I'd rather Phoenix stay a hobo, just because I feel that Phoenix's story is kind of done as a lawyer, and I'd rather see more character development and more backstory with Apollo now, because we know virtually nothing about his past, except the fact that Thalassa Gramarye is his mother, so I'd rather see Phoenix stay a hobo and just stay Apollo's mentor. She also asked, what was your first impression of Edgeworth? Inflated sense of self-worth and a smart little brat. I mean, despite the fact that Edgeworth was a proclaimed prosecuting prodigy at such a young age when he started, I still felt he had way too huge of an ego for just starting out. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Yumihiko in a way, because from one of my friends have told me he also has a very inflated sense of self-worth despite just starting out, so I don't know. At first I thought Edgeworth was just a snarky little shit. I'm just like, I hope he's not like this the entire game, just because I'm gonna really hate him if he does. But once I played Turnabout Goodbyes, my opinion of him completely changed, so I'm just like, okay, he's not a bad guy, moving on. She also asked, what was your first impression of Clavier? My first impression of Clavier was surprise, just because Clavier is to Apollo what Miles is to Phoenix, so I was expecting someone a bit more serious in a way, just because I figured they'd be keeping more to the Miles mold, so to speak, of a prosecutor, but Clavier was a lot different than Miles. I mean, he was obviously a lot more laid back, him being a rock star and everything, but the fact that he still took prosecuting seriously, it was just like a really cool balance, and I thought Clavier was a pretty cool dude. I mean, the German doesn't hurt, and him being hot doesn't hurt either, but... So anyway, she also asked me, which member that was not in Apollo Justice do you want to see more of after the AJ time skip? I'd probably want to see Pearls the most, just because I'm kind of curious as to what she'd look like after the 7 years, because all we know of Pearls is the 8-year-old that, is infatuated with the idea of Phoenix and Miles and slaps him whenever he so much as looks at another woman. So I'm kind of curious as to how she'd turn out 7 years later, now that once she had time to mature and she had time to grow up and realize that just some of her ideologies weren't quite spot on. So, and I'd also love to rewind and see what Waki Kitaki looked like as a little kid, because he might have been a brat when he was 18 or whatever age he was in Apollo Justice, but I bet he was a really cute kid. I'm not gonna lie, I think he was probably adorable as a little kid. His weird little hair and everything. Plum Blossom Sketchy asked me, how did you get into drawing and art? It was pretty much through the girl who got me into Ace Attorney. She had introduced me to everything. She and I like to do just random doodles and everything on just like a piece of paper. We'll be sitting at lunch, an idea will pop to us, and we'll just start doodling on the piece of paper, whatever. We've done some random things, and then, I started playing more of Ace Attorney. I got the art book and everything, and then I'm just like, the characters in here are actually pretty cool. I was like just getting into the anime style, and I was looking to give it a shot and everything versus the normal traditional art that I've been doing in high school and everything. So, I started drawing the Ace Attorney drawings that y'all have probably seen on my DeviantArt page. A couple of them you haven't seen because they're that bad, they're never going to go up, but I just started getting into Ace Attorney, and now I'm switching over a bit to Vampire Knight stuff and doing the manga style instead. Going pretty good so far, but just that's how I got into it, basically through Ace Attorney, and it's evolved into a couple different things. She also asked, do you plan to further harness your drawing skills and be an art pro? Well, I'm flattered that she thinks I have the ability to do such a thing, but I personally don't think I'm that good where I could, draw something or paint something or whatever and make money off of it. I mean, I'm good. I know I can get, like, views on them and faves on DeviantArt and everything, but I don't think I'm good enough to garner any money off of it. Writing, maybe I could probably make a living out of if I really make a living out of it if I really tried, but again, that's also far-reaching just because that's not in the cards at the moment, and I'm not sure I'm good enough to publish something, but that just could be my, I don't know, just my bad opinion of myself sometimes talking, but I don't know. Right now, no, I don't plan on doing anything professionally, just doing it for fun. And her last question was, what is it about Klima that appeals to you besides Clavier's incessant flirting? Well, that's always amusing, and insulting him all the time, throwing food at him and calling him a fop and everything. That was the first thing that caught my eye, just me thinking it was funny, her disdain for him and everything. But I think it's the fact that they're complete opposites of each other, but yet they could work in a relationship. I mean, she's so introverted in Apollo Justice versus how outgoing and forward she is in Rise from the Ashes and Investigations. It's just like she became very self-involved, for lack of better words, and just like he's so outgoing and flamboyant without being gay. I mean, he's just so outgoing and personable. They would complement each other. I mean, she would help rein him in and he would help bring her out of her shell. So I think it's the fact that, it's the classic opposites attract in that case. I mean, I'm sure a couple people agree with me. I'm sure people have differing opinions on that, but that's just me. And going on to Millybug, she asked me, do I have a favorite musical? I do. I am obsessed with Phantom of the Opera. That is my favorite musical. I've seen it live. It is even more amazing than the movie live. It's amazing when the chandelier's coming crashing over your head and everything. That was, indescribable. That was awesome, but that's my favorite one. I also like Rent. That is another very good musical. She also asked me to say a rather old tongue twister, and I'm going to do it for her just because she asked. She sells seashells by the seashore. She asked me to do it, so I'm just like, okay, why not? I'm guessing it's just to hear somebody in an American accent say, but there you go. Hope you enjoyed it. In her Q&A that she actually did for a bunch of questions that I asked her, just like, she was asking, like, she saw older videos of mine and she was, like, wondering why I pronounced different names the way I did, like Christoph and, Ema. Because, she was like the only person that pronounced it like that. So I'm just going to go down the list of all the main characters and just tell you why I pronounce them like I do. Obviously, I say Phoenix, I say Miles, I say Maya, I say Pearl, I say Ema. I've also heard, actually pretty much everybody I know pronounces it Emma. Millie's literally the only person I know that pronounces it Ema like I do, which is actually really surprising because I thought I was the only one. But the reason I don't pronounce it Emma is because when it has two M's in Emma, the word focuses more on the M's in the word, so it makes it a bit lower, and it's like I hear more of the M in the Emma, but whereas there's just one M in Ema, the way they spell it in Ace Attorney, I was just thought it had more of an I or an E sound to it, where it had like a higher pitch to it, like Ema, like how I pronounce it. So that's just the reason that I pronounce it like I do. That was my first interpretation of it, and it stuck. So she also noticed the difference of how we pronounce the name Christoph. She says Christoph as in the name Christopher, whereas I say Christoph. I guess that came from the fact that he's European, and I guess that was my interpretation of how other European people might say his name. So I guess just like the pronunciation that got in my head just never got out. I'm probably always going to say Christoph, so that's just me. I say clavier like clavier. I'm not sure. I don't think I've heard anybody else pronounce it another way, but I'm sure there is somebody I know that does. I'm not sure if anybody else say these next two any differently. I say Apollo and Trucy. Again, I've never heard anybody else pronounce it differently, but that's how I do it. One that I have heard one or two different pronunciations on it is Grammary, like Zach and Valant Grammary. I've heard Grammaire and I've heard Grammary. I guess I pronounce it Grammary just because it looks like the word grammar and then re at the end, so I guess that was just my interpretation of how to pronounce it, and that's how I always pronounced it. Another one that I saw different pronunciations of was Lamoire, and I've also heard Lamoire. So again, I guess that's just open to your own personal interpretation. I just say Lamoire. I say Darian, like, I guess just because the Y in his name kind of threw me differently because, like, from the normal Darren, like, that you would see in real life. So it's like you can't help but emphasize the Y in his name. I've never heard anybody else pronounce it differently. I've always heard Darian, so I guess just because it's such a unique spelling of the name, you really can't help but pronounce it like that. And the last one is Makito Bai. I have heard Makai, I've heard Maki. I guess just because, honestly, I don't even know why I pronounced it Maki. That's just how I thought it was. And then Tobai, I've never heard another pronunciation of it, but I'm sure there's somebody else that has. So, I'm actually done with all the questions for part 4 of the Q&A. If you guys have any more that you haven't thought of yet, I'm pretty sure I went through like 90-95% of them, picked out all the ones that I haven't answered to. Oh, Millie actually asked me, I forgot, Millie actually asked me to do the best British accent I could. I'm not gonna in this particular video just because I haven't done a British accent in years. I haven't done one since like 2008, I think, was when I did a play where I needed to do a British accent. I had to learn how to do one for my character, but I haven't done it since, so it'd probably be beyond terrible. So let me put a bit more thought into how I would even remember how to do that, and maybe I'll do it in another video eventually. And she also asked me to do my Lotta Hart impersonation because I do think I can do a pretty good redneck since I live in hick country, but again, I have not put any thought into how I'm going to actually utilize my voice with that, but maybe in another one I'll do some lines from the game with Lotta just to show you what I would do for that, because I do hope to do some voice acting with her for the Phoenix Wright Abridged series, but I reckon I need to go out and go skedaddle, so if you have any more questions, hit me up. I will talk to y'all later.